Welcome to the Knock Knock Episode 2 Q&A. My name is Jason B. Jones, and I'm here with my brother and our communications director, Simon Jones. It has been a little bit of a crazy couple of weeks. I have been traveling for my day job and have come off of being like crazy sick over the past couple of days. Simon, I know you've been dealing with feeling a little under the weather as well.
Yeah, something's going around for sure.
So you'll have to excuse us if we cough in the middle of this. We're going to try not to. We've got lots of water and hydration next to us. So we're playing a little bit of catch up. I'm a little bit behind. And so this Q&A episode is coming out a little later than I would like. But we are furiously working on episode 3 right now, which will be focused around Betty. We're really excited to tell some stories that... man, they're just so beautiful and really portray the kind of woman she was. And we're excited about telling those stories to you guys. Because, in order for you to really care and for this to really matter, you have to know who this affected. And so telling her story is going to be, it's really my honor to do, which will be great. So Simon, tell me what you thought about episode 2.
Yeah, it really breaks it down, I think, more than episode 1. Really go over the facts of the case. We heard more of the America's Most Wanted, which was definitely, I think, that really hits home when people hear that because they get an idea. Everyone listening probably has seen an episode of America's Most Wanted at some point, and to hear John Walsh talking about it really, I don't want to say credibility, but it definitely shows the magnitude of how big the case was at one time and sort of what we aspire to bring it to attention to again. And beyond that, just breaking down the facts of the case as we know them, and talking to more in depth, talking to those who knew Catherine and the gentleman who lived at the house. I thought that was a really great part. Get to see your reaction, get to hear your reaction to walking in the house and seeing what it was like. Because as I understand, the house hasn't changed much.
Yeah, it was heavy, man. Like that, the emotion that, because I thought it was going to be fine. I thought I was going to walk in, be really objective, grab a few photos, talk to him about, what he knew about the sort of folklore of the home. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was really an emotional experience. Yeah.
So I thought that was really great that we were able to share that experience on the podcast.
Yeah, and since episode 2, we've had a lot of activity on socials, and the message board has kind of been blowing up a little bit. What are your thoughts just overall on how people are responding after episode 2?
Yeah, people are definitely taking notice, and they're seeing these articles, they're seeing the exposure that the case is getting, and they're saying, hey, I read about you in the MS Reflector. I read about you in the Starkville Daily News, and came across this case in Clarion Ledger, and just wanted to say, I'm so glad that people are talking about this again. I'm so glad that this is getting the attention that it needs again, and I came across the podcast through these other outlets, and I feel like we're hearing from more and more of those people the more of these outlets pick up the story.
And why do you think that those outlets really kind of bring credibility to what we're doing here?
Well, not everyone is into podcasts. And for those that are listening, especially our Q&A episodes, some of us kind of live and breathe for the next episode. We find a podcast that we like, we latch onto it, and we just can't wait for the next piece, the next episode, the next little bit. But not everyone kind of follows that MO, and some people respond more to still, printed newspapers, or they check a news website every day, and that's how they get their news. That's how they find news stories. And we want to capture the attention of those viewers, those readers as well.
And it's been really awesome for me because those things have happened organically. We put together a press release when we launched the podcast and just got it out there to as many people as we could. But a lot of these opportunities have come up organically, where they've reached out either via social media or our website and have asked for interviews. And so it's been really it's just been really cool to see how there's a viral nature to this story already, and we're just getting started. So, the goal is obviously to get as many people as possible to listen. And Simon, you and I have even had some phone calls as of late with even bigger opportunities to maybe get the story out there even further. Well, who knows if those will shake out or if it'll be other opportunities. But it's just exciting that this story is resonating with people.
I agree. Yeah, definitely turning heads, and that's it. If anything's gonna solve it, it's gonna be something that starts with a village, turns into a community, and hopefully turns into almost a movement for justice for these two women. Because if decades of time doesn't solve this, the next greatest thing is a mass amount of people. Basically demanding and searching for justice, searching for an answer.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, let's jump into some of these questions.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I live just outside Nashville, Tennessee. I actually think I remember hearing about this case somehow, which is totally crazy. But I just wanted to say that you guys are doing a great job. There's not many podcasts I've listened to where one episode got me hooked, but I'm definitely hooked. I've been checking back every day, refreshing for more episodes. Just loved the Q&A that you guys put out. That was great. So keep up the good work, and thank you. Looking forward to seeing what happens.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your support. That you just don't know how much that means, because when you do a podcast like this, you get a lot of people that are really supportive, and you get some people who are really skeptical. And Simon, both you and I are doing this right now. We're doing this at 8:41 on a work night. So we worked all day, and now we're coming here and doing this in the evening. So this is a real passion project for us. So when we hear people that are excited about it and that are refreshing their browser and looking for new content from us, man, it really is the fuel that we need to kind of move on. Because honestly, man, Simon, and I don't know if you feel like this too, but there's been moments that I've been pretty discouraged in that, this is a lot of work and a lot to do. And sometimes it's just really hard to take both the positive and the negative feedback.
Yeah, I agree. It can be tough at times, but Amanda, when hearing from you really kind of brightens our spirits. It brings us back to the core, the heart of what we're trying to do, and to hear what you said just really helps. It means a lot, and it helps motivate us and push us. So thank you.
And huge props to Simon for the Q&A episodes. These are all him. He's really driving communications and gathering all these questions. And I know that he's building relationships with the community already on our forums and our Facebook page. And so huge props for him for making these Q&A episodes awesome.
Hi, guys. This is Chance Lunsford out of Pleasant Grove, Utah. And first of all, I just want to say that it's pretty cool to be listening to a true crime podcast with somebody who's actually involved with it, running the show. That's a pretty unique situation you guys are in, and I applaud your courage. Now, my question is this, and it might be a bit insensitive, but my radar started blinking, and so here goes. The attack took place at Catherine's house, and there seems to be no sign of forced entry. And combined with her intense feelings of guilt, which I know you guys stated was something like survivor's guilt, but I wonder if that was too easily written off. How deeply have you gotten into Catherine's past to discover whether or not there was somebody who wished her ill, or if she had connections with anybody who maybe she ought not have? Now, I understand that that's something that's a bit perhaps harsh or whatever. and I don't mean to be insensitive, but as soon as I heard that first episode, that's immediately where my mind went. So take it for what it is. Thanks a lot, and keep up the good work. I hope this resolves itself in a way that can help you guys, live a better life and move on. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that question. And one, I appreciate your honesty. Thanks for calling in and asking a question that is hard, because we're trying to answer hard questions. Catherine was an 81-year-old homebound amputee. And so, she was quite disabled. Her family had worked with, Betty to figure out if she could come over and take care of her that evening. And so what I think is what happened is I think that you have to understand that Starkville was a small town, and it's really hard for me, and Simon, I'm sure you feel the same way, especially with how we were brought up, is you don't answer the door. Like, especially if someone's knocking on the door between 8 and 10 o'clock at night, I'm not answering the door for anyone, much less someone that I don't know. But Starkville was a different town back then. I mean, I would be surprised if the door was even locked. That was just the way that it was. There was not a lot of crime that happened. This was a small town. And Betty was such a good person. So, I imagine that she would have answered the door for anyone that she thought, she probably would it wouldn't even have crossed her mind that someone would have had ill intent. You know what I mean, Simon? Like, I just can't imagine that would be something that would have crossed her mind in that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I don't believe there's any evidence that Catherine was involved in something that she shouldn't have been, considering who she was. Again, I certainly appreciate the question. We want to leave no stone unturned, but so far we haven't come across anything that would lead us to believe that.
Now, what could have happened is, again, speaking to the small town nature of Starkville, it is entirely possible that Betty and or Catherine may have known or were familiar with the person that came to the door. We don't know. You can imagine that if you lived in a very small community, even if you didn't personally know someone that happened to work down the street or that you would see drive by occasionally, if they came to your door, you would have some sort of visual recollection of that person being in your vicinity. Now, that could have happened. But as far as anything that either Catherine or Betty were, involved with that would have made them targets, I think that's probably unlikely.
Hey, this is Michael from Brooklyn, and I just want to let you know that the podcast is fascinating. I really have high hopes for you guys, and I hope it works out and you find some justice for your family. It dawned on me after listening to the first podcast that you had mentioned that the house cleaner was usually there to take care of Catherine, and I was wondering if perhaps that hasn't been investigated. Is there a chance that the killer could have been there to hurt her rather than your family members? And it's just a thought, but it does seem to me that the person who killed them didn't know them, and I'm wondering if maybe they knew the housekeeper. Just a thought. Anyway, good luck, guys.
That's a good question and a great theory. We talk a little bit about the housekeeper in episode 2, and we'll talk about her more in episode 4 when we talk about Catherine and her family, and I get to spend some time with Juki, her granddaughter, and her son and daughter-in-law, and we'll talk about the relationship with that housekeeper. And it's entirely possible. We're not going to rule anything out. That someone may have thought that the housekeeper was going to be there that evening. As I mentioned, the housekeeper had asked the Krigler family if she could go and have the day off to spend time with her family for the Labor Day weekend. They were having a family reunion. And there's a really sweet thing that I learned, and we'll get into this, is that she really considered that Betty saved her life, that it very well could have been her in that situation. And it's a beautiful story because she had been with Catherine for so long, and they had worked together for a very long time. And it was just a situation of, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this person, knew, the housekeeper, or not. But he did come and show up at that house with a motive to kill and hurt people, and who specifically he was there to hurt. We may not know until we find the person. Let's take a quick break. While living in Ethiopia, some friends of mine witnessed firsthand the consequences of extreme poverty. They saw how the Ethiopian women, in an effort to provide for themselves and their families, were forced to make unthinkable choices just to survive. These friends realized they wanted to give these women another choice, one that would provide them the opportunity to earn a living. It was from this experience that Fashionable was born. This movement started with a collection of hand-woven scarves, of which my wife has many, and has grown to include handmade leather bags and jewelry, apparel, shoes, and most recently, a premium denim line, lovingly crafted by women who have overcome extraordinary circumstances. We're so honored to partner with Fashionable and offer our listeners 15% off their first order. Go to livefashionable.com and use the discount code KNOCK15 at checkout. Again, visit livefashionable.com today to help bring opportunity and choice to these amazing women.
All right, next question. Kathy P. writes, I lived in nearby Columbus, Mississippi at the time. I was 32 and working at the Commercial Dispatch newspaper. I was in advertising, but I remember the news story. I've been waiting for this podcast to start. I've listened to all the pre-episodes. After listening to this first episode today, I'm confused about a few things. I know it's been quite a while, but I was thinking that both ladies were victims of assault. I was doing something else while listening, and so I may have been distracted. I'm going to listen again, but as I followed along, I recall someone saying something about the perpetrator maybe didn't know there was another person in the house. Also, I didn't realize, or maybe didn't remember, that Betty was there to take care of the older lady after surgery. I know she died later. I had always thought it was from the attack. Did she die from complications from surgery or broken heart syndrome or what? I'm confused about that.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me just dig into it. So, the perpetrator came in and pretty much immediately killed Betty. That was his first attack. He came in, he killed Betty, and Betty, in a sign of desperation, called out for Catherine. Now, what was so sad about that is that there was not much that Catherine could have done. She was wheelchair bound, so she just wasn't going to be able to do much to help Betty. After the perpetrator was done with Betty, then he set his sights on Catherine, where he very brutally raped and assaulted her and left her for dead. I truly believe that he left the scene thinking that both of those women had passed away, that they were both dead. And she was able to literally drag herself to a corded telephone, pull the telephone off of the wall, and call 911. And then she did. She passed away a couple months later. Her injuries were so severe that she just never recovered from those injuries, and she passed away. And so, I want to make sure I answered all of her questions. Simon, was that pretty much the?
Yeah, that covered it.
Okay, great. Yeah, it is a bit confusing because it is considered the Labor Day murders. It is considered a double homicide. It's just that Betty was killed on September 3rd, 1990, and then Catherine had passed away a couple months later. But they both are ruled as homicides.
Our next two questions are taken from the forum at knockknockpodcast.com/discussion. What was the estimated time of the events?
Yeah, from everything that I've read, they believe that the events happened between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. on September 3rd, 1990, which was Labor Day. And even when I was on that street, you're talking about September, it's starting to get dark a little earlier. It would have been very, very dark on that street. So, and it's hard to tell the exact times, but they believe that it is between 8 and 10.
Is there a copy of the original composite? Also, since the first composite was not great, is there a copy of what exactly Catherine told the sketch artist so that someone more skilled could recreate her original thoughts?
Yeah, if you go to the website, what I've done on our episode 2 page is I've put just an image where it shows all three of the composites side by side. So the very first one is the one that happened in the days after the event. It was, as I mentioned, very rudimentary, pretty much the best they could do at that time so they could get something out as soon as possible for the public. Then, if you look at that sketch, the second one was rendered in 1993. When America's Most Wanted got involved, they had obviously a lot more resources to be able to go back to Catherine's description and be able to make a better rendering of this suspect. I mean, it actually looks like a photo. Like, it looks really great. And then, you'll see also that in 2015, they updated, they age progressed that America's Most Wanted composite to match what the age of the perpetrator would be today. And so those are all three on our website under the episode 2 webpage. Now, as far as the actual description of what Catherine said to the police, unfortunately, I don't have access to any of that. Because this is a open investigation, Bill Lott has all of those things, and he is holding on to those, and rightly so, because he doesn't want any of that to get out, because he's working this investigation as we go. And so yes, please, you can go and take a look at those illustrations, and you'll see that they are a lot better than that very first one that happened, in the days right after the event. Let's take another quick break. If there's one thing I've learned about Betty through this process, is that her life was dedicated to giving back. I know she would have loved organizations like Thistle Farms. At first glance, Thistle Farms is a world-class provider of natural home and body products. In the summertime, their bug spray is a must. But what is truly amazing about these items are the people who make them. All of Thistle Farms products are lovingly crafted by women, survivors of trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. You see, beneath the surface, what Thistle Farms really is a place that provides safe housing, economic independence, and a strong community of advocates for these women. Take a minute to visit thistlefarms.org and learn more about this amazing organization. And while you're there, use the discount code KNOCK15 for 15% off your first order. That's thistlefarms.org, where love is the most powerful force for change in the world. Simon, just to review, can you remind our listeners a couple of ways that they can really dig in and get involved with the Knock Knock community?
Yeah, well, there's certainly our Facebook group that people have already joined, and you're welcome to as well if you're on Facebook. We have a group that you can join if you'd like, or we have a long history of posts that you can go through, some of which are video content, some behind the scenes that you can watch, some video trailers, things that you don't really get from just listening to the podcast. There's also our Knock Knock website, knockknockpodcast.com/discussion is where you will find our forum and where you can see where other people have posted and other questions, and you can post there as well. And you'll also, we encourage you to leave us a voicemail if you have a question. You heard earlier in our episode some people calling in, asking questions. You can be featured on our Q&A episode if you give us a call. The phone number is 1-888-57-BETTY or 1-888-572-3889. Just call, leave us a voicemail if you have a question, or if you just want to say hi. We certainly would love to hear from you. And, of course, other social media, Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, we're on all of them. So we're posting on that all the time. And please just reach out. Like I said, anything that you can say and anything that you can do to engage is really an encouragement to us as we keep going down this road and continue to try to find new ways to tell this story. Simon, thanks again for joining us for our Q&A episode. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
To join the Knock Knock community, be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Knock Knock Pod. There you can ask questions, leave comments, or just say hi. We've also set up a voicemail at 1-888-57-BETTY. If you have comments or questions, or you'd like to be a part of the show, please call and leave a message. You can also rate and review the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you download podcasts. Reviews are key to keeping Knock Knock on the charts, where people can find our show. Knock Knock is produced by Chris Cerrone and me. Special thanks to the Knock Knock team: Lacey Arcioli, Rebecca Jones, Jason Adams, Simon Jones, Cole Flynn, Colleen Jones, and Maggie Thomas. We'll be back soon with our next full episode, so please share the podcast with your friends and family. Thanks again for subscribing to the Knock Knock Podcast.